Okay, we are rolling. We are rolling, brother. Champions of Champions boxing talk here. Well, there is lightning outside, ladies and gentlemen, in the UK. It's been very hot here, let me tell you. And it's been very hot, hasn't it, in the welterweight division. You know, we just had an all-time classic fight, didn't we, with Manny Pacquiao and Keith Thurman. A fight that is up there with, I don't care what fight you mention. That was, I never even said it in my video. But I was hoping for a Klitschko-Joshua style fight, and we got that. The only thing we didn't get, Joshua was dropped and then managed to beat the old veteran. Keith Thurman lost to the old veteran. But, both guys in that fight were, it was a dragon v a T-Rex, wasn't it? And, dragons breathe fire, but you can never write a T-Rex off, Keith Thurman asked for a T-Rex, he got a T-Rex. But there was a lot of trash talking from Keith Thurman, and although he didn't retire Manny and he clearly lost, let's just say this. Keith Thurman tried 100% to back up his trash talk. When a fighter does that, you can't criticise him, really. You can't ask for much more. Keith Thurman did not cover up all 12 rounds like Adrian Broner. Keith Thurman in the second half of that fight was a warrior. Right? Pacquiao deserves all the credit in the world. It's about him pulling that off at 40. But let me tell you, he beat a magnificent welterweight there. I was shocked. Keith Thurman in the first 6 rounds was absolutely being obliterated. But he found a way to make his stock rise in the second half of that fight. I had it more or less all Manny in the first 6 rounds. The second half of the fight, I had it 4 rounds to 2, Keith Thurman. So he put a gallant effort in, and if he can learn how to protect that body somehow defensively and have some faith in himself, he can come back from here. Right? That was a titanic battle. One that will live in the, archives of boxing for years to come. Dramatic fight. Historical fight, because Pacquiao not only beat the young gun, he became the oldest welterweight world champion of all time. Just like Hopkins did and George Foreman did in their respected weight classes. Truly historic. Right? Truly historic in the highest regard. Some people put Manny now back on the pound-for-pound list, and I could see why. Boxing Ring IQ now has Manny Pacquiao number 1 pound-for-pound. Let's face it, who's beating a guy like Keith Thurman? Of all the guys pound-for-pound, I don't care who you mention, who recently has beaten a guy on the level of Keith Thurman? Right, unified world champion, undefeated, beaten Danny Garcia by decision, beaten Shawn Porter by decision. These are some of the top welterweights, and Pacquiao's just beat him. If Terence Crawford would have beaten Keith Thurman, had Eroll Spence beaten Keith Thurman, everybody would be dancing around. Oh, he's pound-for-pound number 1, Bud Crawford. I'm telling you. Oh, he's pound-for-pound number 1, Eroll Spence. I'm telling you. Well, if you're going to raise them higher up in the list, why wouldn't you raise Manny Pacquiao, who did it again at 40? Let me just end with this on this subject, right? In years to come, Keith Thurman, this fight will look better and better for him. The disrespect he's getting, and I'm going to credit Nestor Gibbs of the Boxing Voice. He was both singing Manny Pacquiao's praises, putting Manny Pacquiao up there with the best of all time, which he is, He was even, and Nestor Gibbs, that side of the woods always seems to be pro Floyd Mayweather, but Nestor Gibbs was putting Manny Pacquiao right next to Floyd Mayweather. That is a compliment from them guys, let me tell you. But Nestor Gibbs saw the light of Keith Thurman shine through like I did in the second half of that fight. That spirit is what will once again produce quality things from Keith Thurman if he has the faith and the wisdom to protect that body. Right? So, Manny is, again, on my pound-for-pound list. There is not 10 fighters in the world better than that version of Manny Pacquiao we saw at the weekend. I'm sorry. Mikey Garcia is not better than that version of Manny Pacquiao. Just, there are 3 names you could throw off that list right now. Estrada is not better than Manny Pacquiao based on that performance at the weekend. I'm sorry. He's got to be back in that pound-for-pound top 10 at least. Again, some people have him number 1. The point I was going to say, though, is this. With Manny Pacquiao beating Keith Thurman, it's put to rest the ghost of all this nonsense catchweight stuff. Oh, he only beat this guy because of a catchweight. Oh, he only did this because of a catchweight. Now he has fought a guy, fully fledged welterweight, undefeated, no catchweight, and beat him. That tells me that Manny Pacquiao in 2009 could be any version of Miguel Cotto he wanted. Any version of Margarito he wanted. But he let Margarito go up in weight. Margarito used to fight at 147 pounds, guys. People forget Miguel Cotto won titles at 140 pounds. Right? So the catchweight really was only, what? And Pacquiao was really only acclimatizing to the bigger weights at that time. So small compared with these guys. 46 pounds. Not that much of a disadvantage. Pacquiao did a better job on Cotto than Canelo did. Right? Oscar De La Hoya. It makes it look now, when you look at what Pacquiao did with Keith Thurman, was Oscar De La Hoya as really as shot as people thought? It was just Pacquiao was that good. Oscar De La Hoya, a bit like Keith Thurman, only he was, he was not the Oscar De La Hoya at his best, but still a good fighter. Oscar De La Hoya took, punishment and was never dropped for 8 constant rounds. If that wasn't Manny Pacquiao in the ring with Oscar De La Hoya that night, Oscar De La Hoya would have been competitive with most fighters in the world. I'm just telling you. So that Thurman win puts all this catchweight nonsense to bed. The Bradley fight did. Let's face it, no catchweight there. No catchweight with Jesse Vargas. No catchweight with Jeff Horn. No catchweight with Lucas Matisse. Right? Get it in your head and stop talking nonsense. Let's move on. What did I say? The T-Rex v. the Dragon. In this fight, Shawn Porter and Eroll Spence, we have the Siberian tiger, the biggest cat in the world, which is Eroll Spence, the African lion, Shawn Porter. These guys are 2 monsters, right? 2 monsters. The Siberian tiger is stronger. It's bigger. Apparently it's quicker. Eroll Spence is presumed to be bigger, stronger, more skilled. Is he tougher? Never write off a lion, even if you're a Siberian tiger. Lions, they do remarkable things. Never write a lion off. Shawn Porter is a lion. People will say Eroll Spence stopped Kell Brook in the UK. Yes, he did. But what am I going to say here? Styles make fights. Just because Eroll Spence beat Kell Brook and Kell Brook beat Shawn Porter, which was a close fight, that could have gone either way, don't presume that automatically means Spence beats Porter. We also have to add into the fact that Kell Brook fought Eroll Spence after he fought another monster, a middleweight, that broke his face in half. Early on, Kell Brook was giving that work to Eroll Spence. That was a ultra competitive fight, right? He, to me, was hurting Eroll Spence at least as good as he was hurting Shawn Porter, right? And as I said, this was a damaged Kell Brook psychologically. Still a good fighter, but it wasn't the Kell Brook that Shawn Porter fought. How could it be? After fighting Gennady Golovkin, one of the biggest punchers we've ever seen in the history of the planet, right? You're talking unearthly ability there. And he was at least a light middleweight, fighting the ultimate middleweight at the time. Eroll Spence, to me, is a light middleweight to middleweight fighting in the welterweight division. That is why he is so formidable. That is why he is a Terminator. But guess what? Mikey Garcia went the distance with him. Yes, he outboxed Mikey Garcia, but Shawn Porter is known for his toughness. He's going to be confident looking back at the Kell Brook fight. He's going to be confident knowing that a lightweight essentially went the distance with the boogeyman, right? Also, has Eroll Spence yet faced anything that is a true match for him? Yes, there's Kell Brook, but as I said, Kell Brook was potentially really not the same after Golovkin. You know, it's like technology. The Terminator 2 movie, you had the T-1000, didn't you? It was liquid metal. It could change into all these forms and do all this and whatnot. And it could, shape shift and look like different human beings to try and trick its prey. Then you had the T-800, which was Arnold Schwarzenegger. It was more clunky. It was more this, it was more that. But you could rely on it, couldn't you? And the T-1000 wrote that model off. And it found a way to defeat the T-1000. When they reprogrammed the T-800, John Connor, to think for itself and be more intelligent, no matter what advantages the T-1000 had then, it met its match. And when someone is willing to be terminated to win, they're very dangerous. Arnold Schwarzenegger, this is what won the day. Arnold Schwarzenegger was willing to get terminated himself for the cause. The T-1000 was only aiming to terminate a target. Think about that. Shawn Porter will give absolutely everything he has. He's not Lamont Peterson either, who gave everything he had but just didn't have it anymore. He will come and give his best shot. The best shot for me is being close to Eroll Spence. He has to close that space being the smaller guy. He can't be at a distance because Eroll Spence in the Mikey Garcia fight did prove this. He is a terrific boxer with a terrific jab, and he's quicker and a better mover than people give him credit for. Yes, he's a renowned body puncher, but I thought Mikey Garcia would have some success in the boxing sense early with his sharpness, and maybe with being a lightweight going up would have a speed advantage. He didn't even have a speed advantage against Eroll Spence. But Shawn Porter is sudden, and Shawn Porter has it within him to have the courage to be close. If he can get close, Eroll Spence has long arms. Can he extend those arms on the punches? Yes, he can. But you're far better off, Shawn Porter, in my opinion, doing what you do at your very best against Eroll Spence. Because Eroll Spence does have a boxing pedigree. If Shawn Porter can bring heat, sometimes you can scramble that computer and it starts malfunctioning. When a true good pressure fighter really puts it on, a boxer puncher who has to, who when there's time and space is at their best and can think, the pressure fighter can start getting some results in. Look at the first Roberto Duran Sugar Ray Leonard fight. Sugar Ray Leonard fought very well up close against Duran. But Duran took him out of his game, and Duran was slightly better up close and in the trenches than Sugar Ray Leonard. When Sugar Ray Leonard, you give him time to think, nighty-night, or it's school time. But when you get in close to his school library and don't let him read those intelligent books, you go in there and you rip every book up you can see and burn it. That is when the information starts getting destroyed. And that is when potentially even the best boxers can be taken out their game and go into panic mode. Right? Of course, I think Eroll Spence is a terrific fighter up close too. But Shawn Porter is known for that. But he has to be known for it. Let me tell you something. Shawn Porter cannot do with Eroll Spence what he did in the early rounds v Danny Garcia. I thought at the beginning he was giving rounds away trying to box Danny Garcia. When he became Shawn Porter again as the fight went on and closed the space down quickly and made Danny Garcia uncomfortable with volume, with pressure, with, let's face it, a little bit of dirtiness, Shawn Porter started to take rounds big time. So, consider that. He's got to be relentless. Because so far, Eroll Spence, apart from the Kell Brook fight, which again, Brook did have some success, Eroll Spence has been able to fight exactly the way he wants to fight. He hasn't been taken out of any comfort zones. Right? This is why I would favour Eroll Spence over most fighters. But this is why I would not write Shawn Porter off yet. This is why I would not write Manny Pacquiao off yet. Because both guys are sudden. Both guys have heart. Right? Pacquiao has more skills than Shawn Porter. He has better technique of punch. But still, Shawn Porter has strength and physiology. He's a welterweight. He's a footballer, as they say. He can tackle. Right? But those two guys, yes, they would probably be the underdogs because, how Eroll Spence looks right now. But Pacquiao has, as we saw against Keith Thurman, in the last two of the last 3 rounds, Pacquiao was good as well. But we know he has an excellent potential first half in him. Right? A fast start. Speed that Eroll Spence maybe has not seen or felt. Right? Sharpness. Shawn Porter has the heart. Has that competitive spirit. Where he can start like an express train and fight for 3 minutes of every round. He still has the youth to do it. Right? But spacing is important for both guys. Eroll Spence, to me, is good up front, but he hasn't faced yet, I don't think, someone who is that sudden and strong on the inside and will fire body shots of his own. Right? And Porter, having the shorter arms, will be able to get better purchase and extension on his punches up close and be able to execute those body shots. Right? This could be a war that takes years off both guys' career. Of course, right now, until I see Eroll Spence looking, really below average, I'm picking Eroll Spence. But Sorry about that. It's raining outside. But things could change when I see footage of training camps and things like that. And, you know, you hear Chinese whispers about this guy is getting lit up in sparring. He's picking up minor injuries and so forth. But I'm thinking about Eroll Spence as the favourite. But would I wake up the next morning in shock if Shawn Porter somehow pulled it off? No. There are bigger upsets happening in boxing than this. Again, styles make fights. Eroll Spence may completely have Shawn Porter's number, with no matter what way you call it, but Shawn Porter might have his number. Again, don't think through the Kell Brook fight, because both guys were struggling with Kell Brook, not just Shawn Porter, right? Eroll Spence had his trouble early on, right? Keep that in mind, right? It's important not to get caught up in this triangle theory in boxing, because if that was the case, wouldn't Pacquiao have beaten Floyd Mayweather? Floyd Mayweather went 10 rounds with Ricky Hatton. Pacquiao put Ricky Hatton away in 2 rounds at Ricky Hatton's best weight, 140 pounds. Pacquiao stopped Miguel Cotto. Floyd Mayweather got busted up and had a competitive fight with Miguel Cotto, right? Floyd Mayweather went life and death in the first fight with Chino Maidana, but Manny Pacquiao beat 2 very similar styles in Brandon Rios and Lucas Matisse in easy fashion. But yet, when May 2nd happened, 2015, Floyd got the decision. So you can't go off these things. So it is the Siberian Tiger, the African Lion. Shawn Porter's previous fight, he got his spacing all wrong. Keith Thurman said, and I agree with Keith Thurman, he said, I'm not a fan of this boxing version of Shawn Porter. When he says boxing version, he means trying to be the slickster, trying to be a Sugar Ray Leonard. That isn't Shawn Porter, right? Maybe he is trying to save a bit of energy because he is getting a little bit older. But I'm sure he will put everything he has and build that fitness and stamina like never before for Eroll Spence. Spence, if you're close and putting the heat on him, maybe all them skills will start to malfunction like the computer. Right? Or maybe they won't. Maybe Eroll Spence is just that. But you've got to at least ask Eroll Spence those questions. You've got to make Eroll Spence tell you, yes, you've got to make Eroll Spence prove, no doubt, that he's separate from the rest. If you go in there and are conservative and let Eroll Spence do what he wants, we have unanswered questions. At least make the guy answer those questions by giving the best of yourself against him. And I think Shawn Porter will at least give the best of himself. There are fights sometimes the next morning where we think this guy could have done this, he could have done that. The Adrian Broner situation when he doesn't let his hands go. Amir Khan, people think he could have carried on against Terence Crawford. Trust me, Shawn Porter, you won't have them questions about him the next morning. I'm telling you, he will give it all he's got. And sometimes human beings do extraordinary things. Andy Ruiz was a much less favoured fighter going in against Anthony Joshua than Shawn Porter is against Eroll Spence. So keep that in mind. But we've got a Siberian Tiger, the African Lion. Yes, the Siberian Tiger would be favourite, but there have been occasions in history when the Lion has won. And I hate that analogy because I respect animals and I don't ever want to see them fight each other. But we're seeing 2 sportsmen here. We're seeing 2 top of the range athletes, and we're seeing 2 respectable human beings fight each other. And you know, one thing Floyd Mayweather did say, which I agree with, put the knives and the guns down and put the gloves on. Boxing is civilized brutality. I don't really see boxing so much as fighting, but thinking. Right? That's what the sport is. But Shawn Porter, maybe that head sometimes which fighters do complain about, maybe the rugged stuff and the tackling which fighters do complain about, that could have some bearing in this fight in terms of making it competitive. Jeff Horn has no problems, being the rough stuff. He's like a blunt razor, that guy. But he doesn't care. I don't particularly like that style. I think, the Jeff Horn style. I do like Jeff Horn when he lands his shots and does his thing. And the same with Shawn Porter. When he annihilates the body, when he throws punches, the attrition, the heat he brings, the breaking down of an opponent, taking that guy's heart, right, within the content or the context of the fight. I like that. I don't like seeing people elbow people on purpose, strangle people and all that stuff. But Jeff Horn doesn't care what I think. Shawn Porter doesn't care what I think. If they think that they can break a guy by doing that, they're going to try it. Right? Maybe I'm not encouraging it. Maybe that is a route for Shawn Porter in this fight. Unless he finds out that Eroll Spence will be a footballer and a tackler in his own right. Right? Sometimes you can run right to the belly of the monster and it just decides to swallow you. But you've got to take the risk of being swallowed. You've at least got to make it do that. You've got to make the questions be answered. And I don't think as boxing fans will be disappointed with Shawn Porter. He will make Eroll Spence answer those questions. And if Eroll Spence wins, we will say the next day, he's the truth. Or this was at least a great fight. So, 2 big cats square off. 2 Terminators square off. And it's going to be, I think, another very good fight. Because these styles are made for each other. Spence likes to box and fight. Porter likes to fight. And he thinks he's a boxer at times. But he's not as good a boxer as he is a warrior, in my opinion. But that's just me. Maybe, who knows? Maybe Shawn Porter's style of boxing doesn't have an effect on Danny Garcia. But it might on Eroll Spence, because Eroll Spence might not expect it. But in boxing, always be prepared to be right when you make a prediction. But always be prepared to be wrong. Because this is boxing. You play football, you play basketball, you don't play boxing. Anyway, that's enough from me for now. This is Champions of Champions Boxing Talk. How about, brother?